Hi friends, welcome to the barn. A different intro today because this is episode 69. I wonder if you worked that one out. This is my RM 1069. I know you've not joined this to look at Route Masters, or maybe you have, but this actually is my first RM, but my second Route Master. My very first Route Master was an involvement in RMC 1487, which I've still got to this day. It's over there somewhere. And then along came this one, RM 1069. And now, because RM 1069 arrived and a lot of work was done on this to get it on the road, once I got it on the road, I was able to retire 3461 for preservation. So that's what's been going on since about 1988. So we're well into it now. If you watched the previous episode, episode 68, you'll know that I took the side out of it. So this weekend, I want to have a look at the structure of it, work out what we need to do, and draw up a few priorities. Much of it is, I mean, it looks grim, but it's certainly doable. It's an effort, but it's doable with the right mind. So I'm going to kick off on that this weekend. As I say, at the end of all of these, let's see how we get on then, shall we?
Well, and I can do that now for you. Actually, it wasn't a bad weekend. This is the view I saw on Saturday morning just before 6 o'clock. Yeah, it looked a little bit stormy and April showers are on the way, but nonetheless, I'm inside in a dry barn, hopefully. Right, so this episode, I've got to remove the window pans because I left them inside the bus. Obviously, they need a little bit of care to get them out, and I'll go through that in a second. Yeah, and more on those rotted panels, those interdeck bits. And did you know that the RT was made in two halves? I'll show you the join. We had a couple of visitors this weekend as well, and I've got a pump update. So, right, let's get started with the windows. Right, we'll start with this nice framed image of RT3461 against the canopy of a Route Master, just on the other side of the shed. Just a quick recap for those who may not have seen the previous episode. I've reached a point now where we can't proceed much further with the front of the bus. So the front of the bus has been sheeted, as you can see, and now is the time to create an awful lot of dust and remove the side panels on the vehicle. When I did the offside back in the mid-90s, a lot of wood fell out of that bus. It was really bad. The offside was pretty much completely rotten. So I had to replace virtually all of the wood on the offside. And I was hoping that the near side wouldn't be as bad. So last weekend, I made a start on removing those panels. And I was to be pleasantly surprised. However, I still needed to take out the window pans on this Saturday morning. I'd left the window pans right to the very last minute. Taking the panels off, the main panels, was quite easy because it didn't matter if you damaged them too much. All the beading is going in the bin. And all the side panels are also going to go in the bin. We recycle them anyway. But the window frames are a different kettle of fish. They're actually quite hard to get hold of now, and they tend to rot at the bottom, especially the ones with that half-drop window on them. I had a couple on the other side. The bottoms had completely gone. I'm surprised the glass didn't fall through it. But these ones are actually in remarkably good condition. I was pleasantly surprised. What tends to happen is just along that bottom seam, which you can see there, you get, that's where the rot is, and it rots out almost completely. So the only thing that, I don't know, the only thing that stops you seeing it is the beading. But anyway, yeah, so I need to be very, very careful about taking these out. One, because they could well be fragile, and secondly, because of the fact they might actually be impossible to replace. Right, so now it's time to remove the first window. I'm starting at the back of the bus now. I haven't removed all those screws, which you saw me doing earlier. I have sort of loosened off the bottom a bit, which is quite obvious. Now, all I've got to do is to gently prise it away. There's a couple of little screws that I think we're not going to give up. something holding it in. So yeah, so each one has to be taken out quite carefully. There you go. So yeah, that's it. As I said, really pleased with those window frames because they're actually in very good condition. But as we carry on removing the windows, we'll start to notice the extent of the rot, particularly the bits of wood above and below the windows, which you can't really see. So I'm going to change them. I've heard it said before that London Transport don't use filler, but London Country possibly did, because at the top of this window pan, which is a little bit rusty, I was thinking about perhaps getting a new section welded in on that one. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm going to have to make a decision on it. But that white stuff there, that's body filler. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with using body filler, but London Transport, to my knowledge, didn't like it. They frowned upon it. But yeah, when you get something like this, I suppose, does it really matter? But anyway, someone at some point has used filler, probably to stop the water coming in, because I imagine that that's had a bit of a water ingress problem at that corner, especially given that the frame that sits below it had actually started to rot out in the corner. Right, so here we are with all of the windows and all of the panels removed. The next project to start doing is to remove, see those little things there, the waste rail. I thought they were stress panels, but different names apply. And you can see a little bit of grey primer on each one. That's just how I mark them up. It is important there because each one, near side and offside, is different. And the reason for that is the placement of the seats. So you can't use the one nearest the camera, which I've called Bay 1, with in the space of Bay 2, unless you do some adaptation. And I might have to do a bit of adaptation because you can just about see on Bay 2 how badly rotted it was just before it goes into that sort of upright pillar. So that had really badly rotted. In fact, it was almost in two parts. And the one nearest the camera had rotted as well. That was where we had that window pan with a filler in it. So that had also got some significant rot on the end. But that is probably repairable. I think the Bay 2 one probably may not be without some effort. So anyway, that's what the bus looks like from the outside. And this is what it looks like from the inside. Right, you can see some of my tools there on the floor. Just poked in the corner, you can see that nice little panel, that upright sort of waste rail panel. That is panel number 1, which will fit at the front there. That is a brand new. Infusion actually had a small number of them made, but he only did Bay 1 for various reasons. But so I've got that, which is good, so I can do a straightforward replacement. But the one now nearest the camera, you can see how badly almost severed that it is. The bits of wood that sit on top of that, I'm also going to replace. I mean, inside it looks quite nice, but outside it looks a bit frazzled. Plus the fact they've got the remnants of screws and bits and pieces, and where I've taken the screws out, even though carefully, it looks like it's got woodworm, frankly. But I think they'll be replaced. Well, they definitely will be replaced. And then the structure, which you see just at the bottom there, you see my torch. That is the where the fuel tank is, just under there, and that is also almost completely rotted, so it's turned to balsa wood. But I am really pleased. I mean, I was dreading taking this side. It was one of those things where you think, I don't want to do this because it could be really horrible, but I'm pleasantly surprised. And I had thought I was going to be replacing so much more wood than just this this fairly small quantity. Right, now I get to stuff I quite enjoy doing, is dismantling things. So right, here I am taking off what I call the number 1 waste rail panel. You can just about see in a couple of shots, when my arms are out of the way, you can actually see the rust that's particularly there. So it's rusted all the way down that bit. Now I don't think, I'm just guessing here, that I think what's happened is they've had a water ingress problem. They've taken the window pan out, done some repairs and popped the thing back again, because probably changing this was going to be a little bit too much of a hassle. But luckily, as you saw earlier on, I've actually got that panel, that exact one I've got. There's that little bit of fibre on there as well, and I think that's got something to do with a garage plate holder, because the garage stencil plate holder sits just ahead of that. So yeah, there's a little bit of wood just where I'm sticking my head. There's an extra bit of wood just up in that recess. So there we are. So that's taking off the first of the stress panels. Right, what we're looking at is the two panels, those two waist rail panels removed, the one that was totally rotted and the one nearest the camera. And the one that was totally rotted, can you see that? It's actually now propped up, complete with the wood still stuck on it. It's probably what held it together, actually. And what I need to do is to separate the wood off of those panels, especially the ones at the back. The ones, I suppose, bays 1 and 2, it doesn't really matter, but I will anyway. And then I need to clean up the metalwork on those pillars. Now, that's a job for another day. A friend of mine commented, well, while you've got all the side out, why not drop the fuel tank out? You can see the fuel tank just sort of malingering there. Problem is, I've got to get the bus up even higher. And I don't want to start jacking it until, I'm probably not going to make too much difference, but I really don't want to jack it up that high to have to get that fuel tank back down, certainly when the side of the bus is out, because those stress panels do perform an important function on the bus, and I really don't want to end up with problems with it. So the fuel tank will remain in situ for the time being. Anyway, just inside the bus you can see that wooden frame there. My brother's, he made this for holding the ceiling up while we were cutting all the panels. Now, as a little point on that ceiling, I'll come back to it in a minute. It's almost finished, but I've got an update on there, and I'll do that update later on. But let's get on with this. I like jobs where I can sit down. This is me removing the wood from that stress panel, because they're screwed in. Strangely, they used about 9 screws to hold them in place. Each one's got them, so perhaps they foresaw them rotting out in the window and that wood having to hold them in place. So anyway, that's me doing that. That went on for quite a while, hence the reason why I'm going to speed it up. But yeah, let's move on to something else now. Right, this is not 3461 obviously, because it's a red bus. This actually is RT2629, which did partner my bus in the shed for quite a while. This one is owned by Tim Hines, who is, as you can see, doing a top-down restoration. Yeah, I mean, looking at his stress panels, those waist panel rails, they actually look in remarkably good condition. I know that this vehicle has been subject to some restoration attempts in the past, so it's possible maybe that they were replaced then. But that's, you can see now the sort of the structure of an RT once all the panels are removed. I will point out the panels don't actually help a great deal in terms of the rigidity of the vehicle. It's the woodwork and the framing that takes most of the stresses of the vehicle. So anyway, there we are. So that's RT2629. Let's get back on with 3461. Right, so back to the plot then. These are the bits of wood that have now been removed from the bus. There's 3 pictures I've got here to show you. Admittedly, one side, they look really good. But when you flip them over, which was on the side, the panel side of the bus, so the inside it looks fine, on the panel side looks really crap, and they've rotted away. Now, I could, and I did consider this, actually cutting them down or sort of slicing a section off and then re-adhering a new section to it, but that's probably going to be too much bother. So I'm going to remake them. The bottom ones are not a problem, but the top ones have got that groove in them, and what they've done is to create that groove, it's actually 2 pieces of wood, or a 3rd or 4th piece of wood if you include that little bit that hangs down. The bit that hangs down is for the Rexine panels, so that holds them in place, and the little the cappings that you see inside the bus, so they're attached to that. I have actually got them, so I've got a few small collection of them. So anyway, yeah, so they're 2 pieces of wood, but it needs a fair amount of what they call routing. So my people have done carpentry, my brother's very familiar with that. So yeah, and they're all made the same. That's one good thing, is you make one and all 4 are exactly the same. So that's a little job for a bit later on, I think.
Right, this is the side of the RT. This is the upper deck here, and this is the lower deck here. What you may not know, or you may know, I don't know, the RTs were built in two parts. So the upper deck was built separately and then mounted onto the lower deck. And this here is the point where the two were joined together. That means that the wood going up is separate and the wood going down is separate. Now, they've got this little metal frame that's in here, and unfortunately, these are particularly badly rotted. Now, they run through between the upper deck and the lower deck, and the only way really of removing them properly would be to separate the two parts of the bus. I'm not entirely sure I want to do that, frankly. So I've got to come up with a solution for these badly rotted panels. But they're probably the worst part of this work that I need to do. The rest of it, the wood actually is in fairly good condition. Yesterday I had Wesley up here for a chat, and he decided to do a little pull test on the side of my bus, and the bus was happily shaking from side to side. So, you know, it is pretty much sound. And I've sent the pictures to Brian Watkinson, and he's seen the pictures, and he said, actually, they don't look too bad. But there is a little bit of rot in this section. This is the section that includes the fuel tank. And at some point, it's clearly had water ingress through here, because this is far worse than any other part of the bus. So anyway, right, I shall push on.
Right, I did say I was going to do a very quick ceiling update, and this is it. The ceiling is almost ready for the final coat of paint, and I'll do that probably in a couple of weeks' time. But with the extent of the work that I need to do on the outside, particularly on those stress panels, I'm going to leave the ceiling out probably until the summer, and then we'll do it as a job in the summer. But if we start on it now, there's a risk we may, one, have to take it down, or two, it gets damaged in the process. So I'm going to leave it out, and we'll tackle that once we've sorted out those interdeck stress panels. Right, I'm just going to throw this in for your benefit. This is a piece of beading with what was two wood screws. So when I say they turn to nails, that's exactly what I mean. And I've had to prise this off. So you can see the two there. The one at the far end is, yeah, very much like a nail. And what happens is that they rot inside the frame of the bus, and the screw head also rusts into the aluminium. Now, the guy who supplies me with my screws said the moment you put them in a bus, Dean, they will start rotting. Although I do hope not this quickly. So anyway, that explains why you cannot remove them normally, and why you have to either drill them out or force them out, which is exactly what I've done in this case. Right, I did promise I was going to do this. These are the Plonk On panels. There was two on that waist rail there, which basically remained on the bus. So what I've done is I'm now going to just take this off just to have a look to see what era these Plonk On panels were put on. London Transport did put them on, so when the panel got damaged, they would often simply put a Plonk On plate. Brian Watkins has told me, who worked at Aldenham, that they also were other reasons why they put Plonk On plates on buses as well, so it weren't just because of panel damage. Anyway, this one is revealed as follows. Right, so it is revealed as canary yellow. I had a sneaking feeling it would be, funnily enough. So it really dates it to post 1970, when it London Country become part of the National Bus Company, and they use this canary yellow. So yep, and you got the original Lincoln Green on there, which RT3461 and most of the sister vehicles carried for most of their lives. This was in that colour, that darker green. Some people call it Brunswick green. I don't know if that's correct or not, but I'll take their word for it. Right up until 1977, when it got painted in that lighter MBC green. So there we are. It has been revealed, the colour under the Plonk On. I do like actually finding things underneath panels, but there we are. One for the archive, I think. Right, so we had a couple of visitors this weekend. One was Nick with his DM. He was getting that ready for the bus rally down at Brooklands. He popped in, and also Wesley was going to give me a little surprise with one of his favourite vehicles. Right, so just as I popped my head out of the barn doors, up popped Wesley with this. This is his ex-Sovereign Leyland Lynx. It's a really lovely vehicle. We've been out and about during the course of the day doing some farmers market job up in Stevenage, and yeah, a beautiful machine, and it was an ideal opportunity for us to have a look over it, and also for us to get both this and DM999 side by side. There we go. You can see Nick's beavering away there, washing his bus. So absolutely beautiful vehicle, and thanks Wesley for bringing it along. Right, so after all that excitement, let's wrap on a picture of the fuel pump from RT3461 under test at Diesel Fuel Injection Services over in Croxley. Dave's advised me that the pump is ready for collection, so I'm looking forward to going and collecting that, and I'll probably be able to pop that back on the bus over the Easter break. Where we'll be able to get it started up, I don't know, that's another matter. We'll see what else goes wrong. But anyway, it's been great fun putting this one together. I'll be spending more time up the barn over Easter, so hopefully I'll get a little bit more progress done. So thanks very much for watching, and as usual, YouTube would select some videos for you to watch if you've enjoyed watching this one.